Well, with any examination, there's going to be anxiety. In person, online, oral exams, written exams, you name it. When we're asked to perform, it's going to raise that level of anxiety no matter what. But the one thing about online is because it's technology based, you are adding the stress of technology usage on top of the stress of taking an exam. So I would say that online exams tend to be more stressful, mainly because you're having not to deal with just the stress of the examination and all of the materials you need to remember for that exam, but then you're also layering on top of that technology. If you are unfamiliar or inexperienced with technology, that anxiety can go through the roof. So what I would recommend for anyone that's going to be taking an online class is do everything you can to get used to the technology. But when I started to use Zoom, I wanted to get really good at it really quick. And so I started creating Zoom meetings for my daughters, my teenage daughters, and I invited them to Zoom meetings just so as a presenter, I could get used to all of the controls of being in charge of a meeting, and I could break things, I could do the wrong thing in a very safe environment that had very little stress associated with it. I mean, imagine going into a very important meeting with your board of trustees and you hadn't used Zoom very often. The stress of having that meeting and the stress of trying to figure out the technology would be very daunting. And so the same thing for our students. I would say do everything you can to get experience in Zoom, and whether that's going in and creating a meeting and inviting some of your friends or family and say, hey, I want to get used to using Zoom and raising my hand and chatting in Zoom and making sure my camera works and making sure my microphone works. One of the interesting things about technology is they all have their little variations. For example, this laptop that I have here, the microphone is right in front. And so if I were to turn this laptop away from me like that, if I were to turn that microphone away from me like that, the sound quality is not going to be very good. And so I need to understand with the equipment that I'm using, what is the best way to utilize that equipment? And for my laptop, because of the microphone setup, I want to be staring right at that microphone or right at that laptop to make sure that my voice is projecting well into that online meeting. If I were to have a headset with a microphone, I could be doing all of the turning and putting my head down, and the sound quality is going to be good because that microphone is essentially right next to my mouth. But if I were to do that while I'm on my laptop and look away and talk, my voice volume is going to fluctuate and it's going to be difficult to understand that. And so really practicing your technology is the one way that you can reduce that amount of anxiety that goes with all the other pieces of learning. So I would recommend that for any student who's going to do online classes, they get into Zoom and they get used to Zoom. They get into Canvas, they get used to Canvas. They make sure they test the equipment that they have, that the sound quality, both for the microphone and the speakers, is going to be what they need. The nice thing is a lot of students will have phones, and phones can easily be used to watch a video. So if you have a class where the professor posts a lot of videos to watch, the nice thing about that is wherever you are, if you're on the bus, if you're in a car, if you're taking a trip and you've got cellular service on your phone, you can take advantage of that time to do that learning with something as simple as a phone and your earbuds. So, I would really recommend that they take every opportunity to learn more about the technology they're using, which will reduce that level of anxiety when they have to go to use that technology for something else. And it really is important. And if their professor is going to use technology, so for example, if I had a professor and I knew that the exams were going to be online and I knew they were going to use HonorLock, I would ask my professor, can you put up a practice exam that's tied to HonorLock so I can have a chance to go in and make sure that HonorLock works with my technology before I go to take that first exam. And I think you're going to find that professors will be very willing to do what they can to help out students. And it's not difficult to put up a quick practice exam, even if it only has 4 or 5 questions. They don't have to grade it. It's just there so the students can go in and make sure that they can use the technology that's required on that exam before it becomes important and has that first exam. And if your professor gives those opportunities, take them. Absolutely. If your professor gives you an opportunity to take a practice exam in Honor Lock and you don't do that before you have to do it for real, that's a mistake. And so take every opportunity you can to actually get used to the technology. Again, as I really think that the best thing a student can do is understand how technology is going to be used in the class that they're taking. And again, that's going to kind of vary from professor to professor, unfortunately, as you know. The best thing they can do is understand how technology is going to be used in their online classes and get their hands on that technology and practice as early as possible, because what it means is all of that level of anxiety of, am I going to be able to make this work, is not happening when they have to make it work. And that's really the best thing for students that they can do. And that's also, you know, the reality of college as well. Understanding the expectations of college and getting your feet wet in doing those things as quickly as possible is really the road to success. So.